My name is Sister Sue Fazzini, and I am the Drug and Alcohol Treatment Specialist Supervisor at SCI Greene, and I get to share with you my moment in time. Much of what I learned about leadership and what it means to be a human being on this earth began on a hot summer day and involved a stack of peanut butter sandwiches and a discarded dill pickle. I grew up in a small steel mill town along the Monongahela River, and when the mill was churning, the town was booming, much like Braddock that we saw this morning. But one day, the steel production stopped, and so did the paychecks. And life took a very drastic and difficult turn for many families in town, including our large Italian family of 10 children. I remember it was a hot, sweaty summer day, and I raced my younger brother to the fridge to see who could grab the last dill pickle out of the jar. Well, he beat me, and he grabbed the dill pickle, and we sat out on the front porch. And he took a couple of bites, and he threw it out into the street. Well, I watched as that pickle tumbled down the street, became covered with the grit and grime until it finally came to a stop. Well, I smacked him in the arm and I said, "Hey, why'd you throw that out into the street? I would have eaten that." And as we sat there and bickered over that discarded dill pickle, we saw our little neighbor friend Billy very slyly and slowly scoot over to that pickle, look back and forth to see if anyone was watching, and he picked up that grimy dill pickle and he gobbled it down. He was ravenous. Well, we were shocked. What should we do? Well, of course, we did what any 10 and 12-year-old would do. We ran in to tell our mom. Now, my mom was the kind of person that each evening she would instruct us when we pray to pray not only for our friends, but also our enemies, because both had a lesson to teach us. And whenever we would come home and tell her all the reasons why someone got on our nerves and why we didn't like them and blah, 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 and she would just look at us, listen to us, and then she'd say, "Aren't you glad you're not him or her?" And so when we told her about Billy, she said, "Is that right?" And she walked down the street to the neighbor's house. Well, it wasn't too long later that she was walking back up the street, and she comes up on the porch, and she looks at me and says, "Why don't you make some peanut butter sandwiches?" Well, in our house, we always had a big 5-pound can of peanut butter on the kitchen table, the kind that comes in a silver can with the black letters. And I froze in time for a minute because I thought, oh, all we have is peanut butter. And then my little selfish 12-year-old kicked in, and I thought, wait a minute, all we have is peanut butter. And so my mom looked at me with a very comforting yet challenging stare and said, "Make the sandwiches. It'll be okay. Everything we have is a gift to share. These children are hungry. We're going to feed them." And so I made the sandwiches, and I cut them into triangles and squares because it's always much more fun to eat a sandwich if you get to choose between a triangle or a square. And the children gobbled them down, as did all 10 of us, and we ran outside to play catchers and chase and baseball all until the streetlights came on, and then we did it all again the next day. My mom's actions that day became a defining moment in my life and in the lives of my siblings. What stuck with me all these years is that our purpose on earth is to share our resources, whether large or small, and that our most empowering moments come from assisting others. As family, as neighbors where we live, as members of the workforce, we are all called to nourish and nurture others. Those 6 children that came into our home were not only fed physically, they were nourished and nurtured. We spend a lot of time at work, 7-8 hours a day. It's important that as coworkers, we sustain one another. A workplace where coworkers are given the sustenance to become their best will allow new ideas to be cultivated. A leader that encourages their team to move forward together invites each person to become a creative and a viable member of that workforce. And when someone is struggling, we are all there to uphold them. Whether they're struggling personally or professionally, we can carry them and help them through the day. And when someone meets with success, we are all welcome to join in and celebrate in that success. When my mom walked those 6 children up into our home, up the porch and into our home, she knew they were struggling. And part of their struggle was immediately resolved with a simple peanut butter sandwich. We too see people that are struggling on a daily basis, whether it's at home, in our communities, or in the workforce. And we all are challenged to help alleviate some of that struggle. And oftentimes, it can simply be in simple ways. Those 6 children remained our friends and neighbors for many years to come, and they lived a very challenging life. Of the 6, 4 died of tragic causes, 1 is incarcerated, and 1 is simply doing the best she can. As for my mom, she passed away quite unexpectedly and suddenly a few months ago. And her funeral was filled with people who came to tell us stories about her generosity and how she helped them all through their lives. And so her good works continue to live on, not only through her children, but through all those she touched. And so the next time you open a jar of peanut butter, I invite you to join in that lesson of leadership and generosity that I learned so many years ago and spread the word and works of a leader. Thank you.